So, global corporation, it's operate across many countries using international products for profit, maintain global standards, and spread economic activity worldwide. So, what drives corporation? The first one is the profit motivation. So, their main goal is to earn more profit by reading more countries and customer using advanced marketing. The second is the global standard. So, global standard, they maintain consistent product quality and use resources like labor, capital, and raw materials worldwide. So, the third one is the economic development. Economic development by selling product worldwide. They contribute development and make goods more accessible to people everywhere. So, they are the prominent example of global corporation like Coca-Cola, American Express, and others more. So, the next one is the characteristic of global corporation. So then the first one is the market presence. So they operate multiple countries and serve global customers. Second one is the supply base. So supply base, they get raw materials, labor, and supplier from different parts of the world. So the third one is the capital base. So the capital base, they raise money and investment from international markets. So the fourth one is the corporate mindset. So corporate mindset, their business decisions are international, not just limited to one countries. So we have two types of global corporation. The first one is the multinational corporation. So multinational corporation based in one country but have factories in other countries. So for example, Toyota in Japan, but they have factories in other countries. The second one is the transnational corporation. So transnational corporation is no single home country based factory companies spread across different countries and managed by leaders from different countries. For example, is Nestle and Shells. So next topic is the comparing MSCS and TNC, or multinational corporation and transnational corporation. So the similarities is both operates in many countries, then both drives economic integration. So the difference of those is MSC have strong home base and management centered in one country. So TNC is no fixed national base and a more distributed global management structure. So for the last one is the impact of global corporation. So the first one is the economic development. So economic development is the product become available in many countries, helping market growth. The second one is the consumer benefits. So products can be sold at lower price because corporation cut costs by producing in cheaper location. So the third one is the employment. So employment is they create jobs in host countries where factories, companies, and branches are established. So the last one is the global integration. So global integration is they connect different economies and spread business practice worldwide.
Regional trading blocks. It is the group of countries within the same region that aims to simplify trade among selves. So the purpose of it is to foster the economic integration, support economic growth, and reduce trade barriers. The first one is preferential trade agreements, or PTAs. It is the agreements where the countries reduce or eliminate tariffs on specific products of each other. Like example, the Asia-Pacific Agreement, or that formed in 1975. The next one is Free Trade Agreement. It is the agreements where countries remove all the tariffs between each other. Example is North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. And the next one is custom unions, agreements to establish free trade areas within common external tariffs. The example is the Southern Common Market that is called Mercosur, that established in 1991. The next one is common markets, custom unions that allow the free movement of labor and capital between member countries. The example of it is the ASEAN Economic Country, Eurasian Economic Country, and European Union. The next one is Economic, Monetary Union, or EMU, an agreement where a group of countries adopt a single currency. It requires a strict condition to be met, including a permanent fixed exchange rate between member currencies. Example is European Union is a prime example, and the 20 EU member states that have adopted the euro as a single currency. On January 1, 1999, the euro was initially adopted by 11 countries, that is the Austria, Belgium, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Portugal, and Spain. The next one is the requirements for economic monetary union. The one is labor mobility. There must be high degree of labor movement between member countries. Similar industrial structures, where members of the economies should possess comparable industrial structures. Open economies. Countries should have engaged in unrestricted trade of goods and services with other member nations. The next one is similar economic responses. Members are expected to react similarly to economic shock, such as changes in inflation and unemployment. The number 5 is alignment macroeconomic objectives, where members share similar preferences regarding the macroeconomic goals. The next one is economic union. Of course, a single economic policy for all members states is controlled by a central body. The example of this is the European Union, or the EU, the world's largest trade bloc, and represents an economic union. Okay. The first one is preferential trade agreements. It is where the tariffs are reduced on specific products. The next one is free trade agreement. Removal of all tariffs between members. Custom unions. Free trade plus common external tariffs. Common markets. Free movement of labor and capital. Economic and monetary union. The single currency adoption. Economic union. Single economic policy. Example of regional trading blocs is the Asia-Pacific Agreement, Mercosur, NAFTA, and the European Monetary Union. These regional trading blocs represent different levels of economic integration, from preferential trade agreements to full economic unions. Each was established to facilitate the trade and economic cooperation between members. The benefits of regional trading blocs are economic growth, where the trading blocs support each other through increased trade and cooperation. Reduced trade barriers. The agreements that reduce or eliminate trade barriers that on goods and services. Labor mobility. Higher form of integration that allow for free movement of labor between member countries. And the last one is standardized regulation, common policies on competition, environment, and business law create a level playing field. Regional trading blocs are a group of countries that form agreements to simplify trade and promote economic integration. This bloc range from preferential trade agreements, the PTAs, which reduce the tariffs on specific products, to more comprehensive form of like free trade agreements that remove all tariffs, custom unions that add common external tariffs, and the common market allowing free movement of labor and capital.
So, good day everyone. My name is Melchor Ken Albert S. and my topic is all about market integration. So, ano nga ba ang market integration? Ang market integration ay tumutukoy sa proseso ng pagkakaisa ng mga merkado o ekonomiya upang mapadali ang daloy ng mga produkto, serbisyo at kapital. The nature of human wants. Ayon kay Koskaran in 2012, the universal belief among economists is the human beings have insatiable or infinite wants, are never satisfied with what they have and always want more. So tayong mga tao, hindi tayo nakokontento sa kung anong meron tayo. Lagi tayo naghahanap. Ang sabi nga ng iba, the more we have, the more we want. So lagi tayong humahanap ng mga bagay na gusto natin pero hindi naman natin kailangan, at palagi tayong umiimbento ng kung ano-ano para lang masatisfied yung sarili natin. At meron dalawang economic problem. Yun ay ang scarcity resources at ang making choices. Sa scarcity resources ay tumutukoy sa limitadong availability ng mga pagkukunan upang tugunan ang mga walang hanggang kagustuhan at pangangailangan ng mga tao. At sa making choices naman, kung hindi makukuha ng mga tao ang lahat ng kanilang gusto, kailangan nilang pumili kung paano gamitin ang mga limitadong resources. At meron tatlong key economic decisions. Yun ang production decision, distribution decision, and resource allocation. Sa production decision, ito yung pagpili kung anong goods or services ang ipoproduce nila sa kabila ng limited resources. And sa distribution decision naman, kung sino yung makakatanggap ng goods and services. And when it comes to resource allocation, saan sila kukuha ng gamit o ng resources sa kabila na limited ang mga ito. So above me are the decision making sectors. First is the government. Ang government, sila yung nagdi-decide kung anong produkto yung ipoproduce para bilhin ng mga tao. And yung sa producers naman, ang producers, sila naman yung nagbebenta o naglalabas ng mga produkto na napagdesisyonan ng government. And when it comes to consumers, ang consumers, sila yung mamimili kung alin ba yung bibilhin nila sa mga produktong inilabas. And there are two systems. First is the market economy or capitalist, and second is the planned economy, which is socialist. At may dalawang nakapaloob sa the market economy or capitalist. Yung una, yun ay ang consumer and producer decision. Sa consumer and producer decision, sila yung nagde-decide kung paano nila gagamitin o kung saan kukuha para sa mga product sa kabila ng limited resources. And dun sa next is voluntary exchange. Sa voluntary exchange, dito nauuso yung barter na nag-i-exchange sila ng mga product para magkaroon sila ng kung anong gusto nila or nagkakaroon ng palitan sa pagitan ng mga products. So next is the planned economy. At meron ding dalawang nakapaloob dito. Yun ay ang government control and limited consumer choice. Sa government control, dito nakapaloob yung ang government lang yung magpapasya kung ano yung product na ipoproduce. Sa limited consumer choice naman, ito yung kawalan ng pagpipilian ng tao para mamili sa mga produkto na kanilang bibilhin dahil nga yung government ang nagde-decide kung anong mga produkto ang ilalabas. And above me is the comparison of two economic system. When it comes to aspect, decision making. Sa market economy, meron tayong consumers and producers. Sa planned economy naman, government lang. When it comes to resource allocation, sa market economy is based on market forces. When it comes naman sa planned economy, they are centrally planned. And in exchange methods naman, sa market economy, voluntary exchange sila. Pero pag sa planned economy, government distribution. Sa consumer choice, sa market economy is high kasi nga, may silang pagpipilian. When it comes naman sa planned economy, since na government lang yung nagpa-plan, limited lang yung magiging choices ng consumers. And the last one is the human element in economics. So the bottom line is that human beings are the reason for the existence of the economy in the capitalist economic system. So ang punto daw din nito ng market integration ay ang mga tao ang pinakang dahilan ng pagkakaroon ng ating ekonomiya at sistemang pang-ekonomiya na tinatawag na kapitalismo.
So, short history of market integration in the era of globalization. Global market integration began in the 19th century because of the advantage in the development of technology. Faster transport networks play a significant role in the invention of the steam engine. In the concept of railroads and forks, market integration reached its peak in 1913 when markets ruled the day. So next is early market integration. In 19th century, global market integration began because of advance in technology development. Next is transport networks. Faster transport played a significant role through the invention of the steam engine and construction of railroads and forts. Next is peak in 1913. Market integration reached its peak when markets ruled the day. Next is the Greatest Depression era. Decline in integration. Over the next 60 years, integration declined because of the Great Depression. This was the longest, deepest downturn in the history of the United States and the modern economy. It lasted more than a decade, beginning in 1929 and ending in 1941. So next is post-World War II recovery. Economic recovery. The economic picked up again and the large American companies began to emerge after World War II. And next is global expansion, followed by companies from Japan and Europe. New era of integration. Yeah. History of two revolutions were responsible for global market integration. So, first is agricultural revolution. This allow cultural transform in early human being from hunter-gatherer to farmers. And in industrial revolution, this transformed the economic from agriculture and handicrafts into an economic based on large-scale industry. So, this is the manufacturing and factory system. So next is industrial revolution impact. First is new machines. Inventions of new machines made companies more efficient and productive. Next is new power source. The discovery of new power source evolution from the production capabilities. Next is work organization. New ways of organization work in make companies more efficient and productive. So next is recent economic shifts. Declining nations' economies for the last 60 years, the world economy has seen the declining relative importance of nation economies. Undermining factors, globalization, regional trading blocks. As global access, the factors of production become more mobility. Uh, Market integration defined. Market integration in the global economy can be described as the degree to which distinct markets of different regions or nations operate. Market integration and globalization, crucial component first, and market integration is a crucial part of globalization. Next is trade barriers. It involves the process of lifting trade barriers, free flow, allowing the free flow of goods and services and capital across international borders. So next is the evolution of global market integration. First, technological advance, steam engine, railroads, modern communication. Next is market integration, single market operation across regions and nations. Next is industrial revolution, large scale mechanic manufacturing. So, yon. Next is globalization, increased mobility of production factors.
Good day everyone. My topic is all about politics and globalization. And what is politics and globalization? Politics and globalization. Politics shapes globalization through trade agreements, regulation, and policies that govern market access and competition. Next is go next is global politics and trade. Global politics trade as a political decision like trade agreements, tariffs, sanctions, and nationalistic policies directly influence the flow of goods and services across borders. Next is labor movement and specialization. And labor movement and specialization is a key concept in industrial work where complex tasks are broken into smaller, repetitive duties, increase efficiency and productivity, but also creating specialized jobs that can be isolating. Next is national government politics. In national government politics refers to the process, institution, and power dynamics involved managing country affairs through its central authority. Next is Next is protest against globalization. In this demonstration by decentralized international movement that opposes effects of economic globalization and corporate-driven institutions. Next is business mobility, globalization, economies. In this, the expanded movement of goods, services, capital, people, and ideas across national borders enabled by reduced trade barriers, technology advancements. Next is regulatory competition. In regulatory competition occurs different jurisdictions, countries, or states offer varying legal and regulatory frameworks to attract businesses. Next is regulatory arbitrage. In regulatory arbitrage is the practice of exploiting difference or gaps in regulations across different jurisdictions or within single regulatory framework. Next is banking regulation challenges. In banking regulation, challenges led to development of financial systems that were dominated by the banking sector. And lastly is learning from the global financial crisis. In this, implementing strong regulations to prevent excessive risk-taking, enhancing financial system transparency, given banks' mandates for financial stability. And that's all about politics and globalization. Thank you.